Father's first words to her were, "Oh, what an implement of torture have I acquired in you." Her father, of course, being Lord Byron, so that's not surprising. So Ada Lovelace argues kind of the opposite. This is like not even 100 years later, right? So the machine that she's programming, the Babbage's analytical engine, it can only do whatever we know how to order it to perform. So it's very much constrained by the rules of the system. So we've been talking about this idea of mechanical creativity, of machines being creative for hundreds of years. So there's a bunch of questions here that I think are worth noting. You know, is it art? Is it really creative in any way? I don't care at all, honestly, about these first two. These are incredibly interesting questions, but they are far above my pay grade as a creative tools maker. The only one here that I really care about is it actually useful to human creatives? Cool. So I'm going to spend most of the talk talking about this thing. Y'all have seen this. This is the bell curve. Before we get to that, raise your hand if you've seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? All right, I got 2, 3, 4. Excellent. I love y'all. That's okay. So this is a fantastic movie, but you don't have to have seen it to understand the point that I'm about to make. So Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? This was Mike Nichols' directorial debut. He did The Graduate, for example. The movie won 5 Academy Awards. It was actually nominated in every eligible category. I think it was the second film ever to be nominated in every eligible category. Starring Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, of course. It was considered at the time to be so vulgar that it actually sparked the creation of the MPAA, which does the R rating, PG-13 rating, that sort of stuff. What you might not know is that it was based on a play, a wildly popular play at the time by Edward Albee. And Edward Albee talks about where he got the title for the play from, which became the title of the movie. I was there at a saloon in New York having a beer, and I saw Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf scrawled in soap, I suppose, on this mirror. When I started to write the play, it cropped up in my mind again, and of course, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf means who's afraid of the big bad wolf, who's afraid of living life without false illusions. That was the reference to Virginia Woolf. And it did strike me as kind of being a rather typical university intellectual joke. So here's a direct connection from a random bit of graffiti in, a bathroom in the West Village, creating this just cascade of events that led to, one of the best movies at all time, and I highly recommend y'all see it. But so what's going on here is this like spark of creativity. Like, where did this idea come from? So when I think of the bell curve, I kind of think of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and I think of it kind of being this almost like outlier level. This is a brilliant turn of phrase. We actually don't know who said it or why, like where it came from, but it really captures kind of a moment in time. So where do these great sparks of creativity, where does it actually happen? Another example, maybe more obvious to folks. So the Nike slogan, "Just Do It." Y'all know the story behind this, right? So of course, it was created by these two gentlemen, Wieden and Kennedy, one of the kind of premier advertising agencies based in Portland. The slogan actually comes from, it was inspired by the last words of a convicted murderer who was executed in the late 70s. So this is a very edgy, every time I see this phrase, I'm reminded of this fact. And this is very edgy. It's a great slogan, easily top 10, top 5 marketing slogans ever created. But it was a murderer's last words, right? So I kind of thought, wouldn't it be fun to see if we could take, today's sort of AI and try to come up with similar, could we do copy, could we do copywriting at this level or even remotely close to this level, right? So I actually spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours with ChatGPT on this specific problem, and it came up with some phrases. It came up with leap ahead. It came up with stride with grit. it came up with step beyond limits. And these are kind of like the best that I could get it to coax it into doing. I actually explained to it, I had it explain to me why Just Do It was a good slogan. I had it explain to me why, could you take that reasoning from that slogan and apply it to other slogans? And so it's actually pretty good at this introspection, right? So like step beyond limits is good as a slogan for a shoe company because of double meaning, empowerment, memorability and brevity, versatility, positive connotation. Like all these things are true, right, and necessary in marketing. The problem is it just doesn't pop, right? This is a good slogan. This is not a great slogan. And the fact of the matter is, honestly, the trick kind of only works once. Like, Wieden and Kennedy were able to pull this off once at a certain moment in time. It was great. But you can't go and keep using that trick over and over again. And as creatives, like we tend to know this, right? So what's going on here? So getting back to this guy. So Ted Chiang, who wrote Arrival and a bunch of other incredible sci-fi, has a wonderful piece in the New Yorker last year called ChatGPT is a, quote, like a blurry JPEG of the web. And I like this metaphor a lot because I think this really captures part of what's going on here, right? So you can think of like these very deep models as somehow just snapshots of a lot of information. And really what they're doing is they're trying to hold all of that in, but they can't, they can't memorize all of it. They have to forget some stuff. And the way that you do it is by kind of forgetting very optimally, and you start to average things. And so in particular, you start to fill in the gaps. That's where hallucinations, these quote hallucinations come from. But another thing you start to do as well is you start to actually focus in on what is the average of experience. So unless otherwise directed, pretty much all Gen AI systems, and this applies to text, this applies to images, this applies to video, they have a very strong tendency to average. So to give you back more or less, if I took all of style, if I took all of art, I'm going to give you back kind of the prototypical thing. And this is a good, gimmick in a lot of ways. But when we're trying to be actually creative, when we're trying to actually develop something new, this can be a hindrance. So you are here. This is what basically all Gen AI systems today are doing. They're incredibly useful and powerful. We build them at Facet. We use them all the time. But I think it's really important to understand that this is the case, that these things are just incredibly homogenizing forces. They're not trying to be novel. They're not trying to turn heads. They're not trying to to invent the future. They're just kind of trying to memorize everything that they've already seen. Okay, so so we've pointed out the problem. Now, what do we do if we want something that actually pops, right? That your creative director came in and said, "I like this design direction, but it doesn't pop." We've all been there, right? What do we do? So I think the way to think about this is to kind of change the question, right? So we want to go from this question today in large language models, can an AI answer questions accurately? This is obviously a great goal of AI, but it's not that useful for creatives, right? Like, what we actually need as creatives is, can AI tell a good story? And this is really what's missing today. This is the thing that I think the fundamental critical fact of the world that deep models just don't really have a good, firm grasp on yet. I say yet because who knows how this is going to change or play out. But at least for now, it's worth understanding this. So I'll give a couple of folks who've thought about this. So first off, Italo Calvino, 6 Memos for the Next Millennium. He's writing in, I think, the late 1980s. We may distinguish between two types of imaginative process, one that starts with the word and arrives at a visual image, prompting, and one that starts with a visual image and arrives at its verbal expression. This is, captioning, right? We actually have machine learning systems that do both of these today. In devising a story, the first thing that comes to mind, and to my mind, is an image that, for some reason, strikes me as charged with meaning, even if I cannot formulate this meaning in discursive or conceptual terms. I think this is really interesting. So there's some spark. He's talking about this spark of this is what I want to convey to people. I don't know what the right words for it, but I can see it in my head. We've all been there. The cognitive scientists think about this in terms of conceptual spaces. So Margaret Bowden, a world-famous cognitive scientist at Sussex, in the late 80s to early 90s, kind of defined this idea of conceptual space. It's the generative system that underlies the domain of a certain range of possibilities, chess moves, molecular structures, or jazz melodies. The thing about conceptual spaces, most AI models of creativity can only explore these spaces. They can go in, they can recombine elements, they can kind of explore, move along predefined paths, but they cannot transform them. They cannot actually create something truly novel that doesn't already exist somewhere in the training data itself. Very chimerical almost, right? The head of a horse, the body of a chicken, things like that. This is very similar to what I would call like the last wave of creative tools. So John Maeda has this rant about Photoshop, talking about the styles that emerge from the Photoshop era are so homogeneous because the software is so universal. We're all using the same tools, so we're all getting the same results, so everything looks the same. This same fact, fast forward to today, still incredibly relevant. In fact, more so, right? Because you're not just using, it's no longer an editing tool that you're interacting with. It's a tool that actually starts from nothing and brings you almost all the way to the final content that you want to produce. So as creatives, we need to be careful of this fact that these tools are they're pulling all of us back to the average. To my mind, what's missing is really simple. There's three things: narrative, intentionality, and taste. And all three of these, time and time again, we haven't seen tools that are able to substitute for any one of these three things. These are, without a doubt, the most important part of any creative act. And there's nothing in generative AI today that can substitute any of this. This all has to come from you. You are a forward-looking creativity engine, and Gen AI is just a tool that you're using to tell whatever story it is that you want to tell. I'll stop there. I think one last thing that I want to note in this is it's been a wild ride in creative tools in the last year and a half, but it's still very, very early. These things are in flux. 2 years ago, they were barely usable. Today, they're everywhere. Tomorrow, who knows? I mean, this is still a technology that's very much on the upswing. Some people are starting to get jaded by it, but it's showing no sign of stopping. There's just amazing new stuff coming out day after day after day. It's important to understand that. So, push ideas, not pixels. That's the message that I have for you. Thank you so much. Try Facet.
How much you done spent? I swear she must believe it's all hell to see. Hey, boy, better bring the chick around. To the sad, sad truth, the dirty law down. Taught her how to talk like that.
All right. If anyone would like to follow up with Joe from Facet, Joe is going to make his way over to the high top table over there. So if there's any Q&A follow-up, please go see Joe just over there. And in about 5 minutes, we'll hear from our next speaker, who will be Jose from FreePick. So see you guys soon.
Turn on that old love light, turn a maybe to a yes. Same old schoolboy gang got you into this mess. Hey, son, better get on back to town. Face the sad old truth, the dirty law down. Put those ideas in your head. you know. Got to have a Jones for this, Jones for that. This running with the Joneses, boy, just ain't where it's at. You're gonna come back around to the sad, sad truth, the dirty low down. Got you thinking like that, boy.
Now come on and take a seat and let's get started. Tell me, fortune teller, will I let another broken heart in? It's not up to me to decide. The gods have told me this 1,000 times. It's not up to you. So what is the truth? So what is the truth? Your superstition keeps me thinking it was karma, but I can't listen. My intuition says I want you. You say everything comes back around, it'll haunt you, but I can't admit my intuition says I want you, and I want you, I want you. I swear it's a sign that we first met on a Friday. Everyone told me the 13th was bad luck, but you said, how could I even care if the gods were against us? But I care if they're against us. Don't you care if our fate is...
Good evening, everyone. Everyone awake? Yes. Okay. By the way, if I haven't mentioned this already, the after party is here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock after dinner. So if you're a Pro Pass holder or have a speaker pass, please come by. And with that, I'd like to announce our next speaker, Jose Florido. Jose is Chief Market Development Officer at FreePick. I'm really excited for this. I hope you are too. Please help me welcome Jose.
Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's such an amazing event. I had a great time today. Lots of learning, having a lot of fun. I hope you are all having a great time, too. So thank you for the organization, too, to having me. Okay, so FreePic. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is FreePic first and what we've been doing. So FreePic, since it was founded 14 years ago, our mission has been to help anyone create great design to express the power of their ideas, right? And the way we've been doing this is providing content, high quality content, created by creatives all over the world that freelance to us, and we own the right and distribute to creatives, right, to designers. So this is illustrations, vectors, iconography, photography, of course. So that's what we've been doing, and we've been doing this very successfully. So over the years, FreePic grew to a massive audience. So we have now more than 100 million resources, 85 million registered users, and every month we get more than 160 views in our website. So all these creative people come to us to get and download content. This is how FreePic look like today. You have vectors, photos, videos, PSD, templates. You also have 3D, typography, etc. And it's easy for you to search, find, and download. But now, since 2 years ago, we've been focusing more on how to help people create faster, right? So it's not only about finding what you want, but it's also how can you create faster. And obviously, this has been powered by AI. So since 2 years ago, we started working on many AI tools. So we are moving from content to content plus tools for creatives, right? So we are focusing on the faster side of our mission. And these are some of the tools. I'm going to be showing and demoing some of the tools that we have already available. This is first our text-to-image generator. Basically, you are already familiar with this. You input a prompt and you get an image. We've been fine-tuning and improving this tool. So nowadays, we're able to generate high-quality, realistic images with just a prompt. Those are some examples. So this image generator last week passed 1 million images generated daily. So every day, 1 million of images. And so think about how many images we are talking here. This is our catalog. It's 120 millions, the whole catalog. And it took us years to acquire that catalog, right, from photographers. So the next tool I wanna show today, I'm gonna talk about today, is called Picasso. So Picasso is another way to generate images, but not only with text, you also sketch. So you can show, you can show your creative talent by sketching and get amazing images, even if you are not such a great illustrator. Okay, so this is a video about Picasso. Okay, so I want to stop here a second to reflect on what is going on with creativity, right? So you've seen how anyone can create, anyone can draw. Tools are becoming, the barrier to create is becoming lower and lower because of AI. So at FreePic, we really believe that designers are not going to be replaced, but we are all getting superpowers, right? So every designer is going to have amazing tools at your disposal to create more and better content way faster, right? So it's such an exciting moment for us. It's amazing, right? If you look at how fast we are moving, these tools I show you, we've been releasing them every other week. We're releasing a new tool every other week. Our team is creating is testing and trying to create products with every model that is being released, right? So this is the speed that the AI is moving, right? So now I'm gonna do a quick demo. And okay, so for this demo, I'm gonna need a volunteer to come up just for a second. Oh, sorry. I'm showing my trick here. Okay, so who wants to come up for a second? Be my guest. Okay, you wanna do it? Yeah. Oh. Right. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna be demoing the product. It's called AI Avatars, right? And I'm gonna be using her to generate. This is called no training avatar generation, right? So in the past, if you wanna do an avatar of your face, you need many different pictures to train the model. Right now, we are able to do this with just one image. So here, let's see how this works. Yeah, oops, sorry. Get closer. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna say she's a female, and we're gonna create an avatar. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now, right now, the model is processing the face, and it's now. Didn't press that. Okay, so right now the model is processing the face and is generating different avatars with consistency on the face. You can create more. And it's all funny looking style, different prompts, in many different styles. You can continue, sorry. I'm gonna create a lot of, look at this one. Okay, so this is with just one image, right? So we didn't need to train or pre-train this model at all, right? Okay. Okay, back to my presentation. 1 second. Okay, this is another tool. We call this the AI Enhancer. So it's basically a new type of upscaler that is able to take a picture that is generated or not and upscale it to huge amount of pixels. So this image has 10,000 pixels resolution. It's 10x, right? It's like 10K. Okay, now I'm gonna do the Picasso demo. Okay, so Picasso, as I said, it's our sketch to generate, right? So I'm gonna be creating something from scratch, and the AI is gonna be interpreting my very basic rough sketch. Okay, so this model it has double input, so you can input a prompt, but you can also input a sketch to gain more control. So I'm gonna be creating an image that my 8 years old daughter asked me yesterday to create. So let's say, she's now in a, like this dark face. So she likes cyberpunk style. Okay. And now I'm going to start illustrating. I'm going to change the color to purple. So, as you can see, I'm drawing very, very basic. Sorry. Let's do something better. So, very basic strawman drawing here. So, okay. And then, right now we are only seeing the same and drawing, but if we go here and start asking the model to use the imagination, right, you are going to start see how the model helps me with the final result. Okay, let's see now. So I'm going to add eyes, you see, now the mouth. I'm going to keep adding maybe some hair. Okay, and let's keep going with imagination, right? So the more I add, the more details I add, the better the model is gonna understand my work, right? Let's add some details. Oops. Here we can add hands. Okay. We can add some details to her clothing. And let's keep doing more, a little bit more imagination here. Right? Okay, and now let's say in the background there is a futuristic city, right? And then I can go and help the model a little bit to paint the city, the buildings. So the tall building here, another one. We can add some light, some details. So you have total control of the final composition with your drawing. Let's add the moon now. So the moon is shining behind clouds, right? So now, if I go ahead, I can add big moon here, right? And now I can add a little bit of clouds, different color maybe. Okay. Some clouds, some more clouds here, right? Okay, but then it's still not looking perfect, right? Let's keep asking for help to the imagination here. So you see, it keeps getting better and better. And now, when I asked my daughter, "Do you like this?" she said, "I want it with a cat. I want it with a cat." So, okay, let's go give you a cat. So, with a cat, right? So, let's see, the girl has a cat. Okay, and now something else you can do with Picasso is that you can use a lot of the resources that FreePic already has to help you. So that you don't even have to sketch. So you can actually look for a cat, right? And then here's a cat. Right. And you can say, okay, the cat is there with the girl. Oh, that's a moon. That's no cat. Here. Let's see if we get a cat again. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so now the girl has a cat. And now we can go all the way with the imagination. Yeah. And that's the only way. Or if you don't like it, or you want to have something different, you can always go into crazy mode, and this will generate infinite variations of the same prompt and idea with and without the cat. For you, the more you scroll, oops, my connection is not working now. Here, let me try again. See. Internet is not going really well, but this should keep producing as you scroll, and there is never ending. So you keep getting more and more variations. And then let's say we found one that we like this one. So we can go select this one and then click on enhance, and we're gonna get a higher resolution version for that image, right? Or we can even go higher. So we can go, this is, as you can see, it's improving the resolution. And you can go wild 4K, and that's gonna give you the highest resolution the model can provide right now. So let's see what happens with the girl and the cat. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so remember I just did a very rough sketch, and this is the image. And if you zoom in, there is a lot of detail here. It's very high res. And you can download this image, you can use it for your work, etc. Okay, so that is sketch to generation. I already talked about the enhancer, the AI avatars. And by the way, I wanted to do a quick demo here, a quick call out to all of you who love messing with AI. You like testing new tools, you like trying the latest toys. We are creating our, what we call the AI Partners Program. Basically, it's a community of AI enthusiasts. Scan this QR code, you can join our community. We'll give you access to our freemium account for free. We'll give you early access to all of these products that we keep releasing, and there is access to a Discord community to meet more AI enthusiasts like you. So, okay, what else? There's one more thing, right? So I'm gonna do a little game with you. This is gonna take 3 minutes. Okay, so look at these 9 icons, right? As I told you, FreePik has millions of icons that designers create for us. We are now getting into AI also producing vector icons. So one of these icons is actually generated by AI. Who can point to the one which is generated? Okay. Guess which one? The middle one? Middle right? No, it's actually this one. So the bottom left was generated. This is hard. They are very good, actually. Okay, round 2. Let's do round 2. Which one is generated here? Can you guess? No? Okay, so actually this one is created by AI. So last one, round 3, it's a little bit more illustrative style here. Which one do you think is generated? Is it impossible to guess? The fox, the little fox? Yes, right. Good eye. Okay, so the little fox was generated. So this is just to show you how our technology is able to produce icons in many different styles. So now I'm gonna do a quick demo and then I'm done. So if you work in design, especially UI design, you may have encountered this situation where you go to a website like FreePik or Flaticon or different websites that they offer families of icons, right? And it's okay, this is the one I want, this is the one I'm gonna use in my project, and then you start working, you have all your icons there, and then suddenly there is a new concept that needs to be represented with an icon, and it's not included in the family. So what do you do now? You can either switch to a different family, or you need to draw the icon yourself in vectors and match the style, right? So it's not ideal. So right now, what we're going to start to offer with this technology is the possibility to, to generate a missing icon. So is there an icon missing in this family? Right? So let's say I wanted a camera, and there is no camera, so I can just ask for it, and the AI will try to generate for me. It's going to give me 4 different options. Yeah, there you go. And they all try to match the style of the family. So we can just take this and run with it. Let's try another one. Let's try a mobile. I saw there was a phone, but it's like an old phone. So let's try the mobile. Okay, there you go. You get 4 options. You can pick the one you like. And by the way, this is all SVG vector-based icons ready to use on Figma website, no matter what you use to create your projects. Okay, so that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay, if there's any questions for Jose on FreePick, please go see Jose at the FreePick booth just over here. So let's do Q&A follow-up with Jose right there. In about 2 minutes, I'm introducing our last presenter. I personally assure you, you're not going to want to miss it. You have my guarantee. Daryl Anselmo. I'll introduce Daryl in 2 minutes. Good evening, everyone. You have no idea how lucky you are. You have no idea, but you're about to find out. Daryl Anselmo is presenting next, our final speaker of the day. Are you guys ready to help me welcome Daryl? Daryl is an art director and visual artist. You're not going to believe what he's presenting until you see it. So let's welcome Daryl on stage right now. Here we go.
Wow. This is a serious intro. All right. Hi, I'm Daryl Anselmo. Thanks for that introduction. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be here, share some things that I'm working on and things that I'm thinking about. I have a lot to cover here in a very short amount of time, so I am going to be moving pretty quick through all this. And if you find anything useful, talk to me afterwards, or just feel free to refer back to the recording. A little bit about me. I worked in the games industry as an artist and an art director and studio co-founder for over 25 years. These are some of the games that I've worked on. I'm currently based in San Francisco, but I also spend about 10 days a month up in Vancouver, Canada. I'm one of the co-creators of NBA Street and Def Jam franchises for EA. I was the art and creative director for Farmville 2 at Zynga. And I'm also a co-founder with 2 exits. So my first startup was acquired by Disney, and I stayed on for several years at Disney as a director of art. And in 2016, I co-founded Midwinter Entertainment, which was later acquired by Improbable Worlds. As some of you may know, being a co-founder is not easy living. It takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of energy. And I admit that I was burned out after my last venture, but thankfully the acquisition allowed me the freedom to take some time off and catch my breath. So for the past 2 years, I've been independent, focused on deepening my art practice and my coding skills, and expanding my reach outside of games, and doing more speaking, developing campaigns with some pretty big brands. I'm super obsessed with AI and super excited about how it's shaping design and how it's shaping culture and what it means for the future. I'm also preparing to launch a new studio later this year that's focused on helping companies retool their processes and make the transition towards neural graphics. This presentation is a working document of my recent projects that explore state-of-the-art in image generation. I should clarify, many of you might have access to private models and technology that's beyond what I'm going to share with you. I've seen some amazing stuff already today. This is really just a roundup of tools that are widely available today and how you can use them in novel ways to achieve higher quality and more artistic control over your generations. I am open about my process. This is going to get a bit technical. I'm going to assume you already understand the basics of text to image, but you're not going to need a black belt in Python. You're not going to need a degree in data science to do anything that I'm going to share with you. Anyone here who's a visual thinker, has access to the right hardware, and a curious mind can do any of this today. My goal over the next 20 minutes or so is to help expand the way that you look at the process of image generation and point you in the direction of where to learn more. And hopefully give you a bunch of ideas that you can use to start solving some of your problems today. So a quick hot take before I get into it. The big question on a lot of people's minds right now, myself included, is CG dead? And you know, the short answer is no, not yet anyway, but it is dying. And you know, if I go back to my first job in the mid-90s, this was right when 3D graphics was starting to displace 2D animation. And that was a really, really difficult transition for a lot of artists at the time. And it happened again when mocap came onto the scene and began to threaten classical animation. It happened again with art outsourcing. And I've seen these patterns play out time and time again. You've probably seen them yourself. As long as we're living in techno-capitalist society, these paradigm shifts will continue to happen. So my advice to anyone working in CG right now, or any students that are studying for a career in these fields, has been to ignore AI at your peril. I don't think anybody here would disagree with me that computer graphics is in a creative destruction loop right now. Industry-wide, to me, it feels like we're about there. Neural graphics has actually been around for quite a while already. We're only now starting to see it make its way into more and more commercial settings. There's open debate on the ethics and ROI in various contexts. We're seeing more fumbles out there. Some of us are learning vicariously through these fumbles. If you're in an established organization, you may be further ahead. You may be a little bit behind. If we take the average, to me, it feels like we're about there. Super scientific assessment. If I take a look around the corner, as the current product cycles come to an end, we'll see more dismantling, we'll see more retooling. One of the opportunities that I see coming from this is this idea of a hybrid working method. That's where I'm focusing most of my time and attention at the moment. That's applying AI techniques to augment and optimize traditional computer graphics. I'm convinced that in the coming months and years, we'll see a continued decline in traditional raster graphics as it makes way for a rise in neural graphics. And I believe this is especially true with the next generation of consumer-grade hardware, which has a lot of this stuff baked into it. If I come back to today, this is my current stack. Stable Diffusion, Comfy UI are at the core of my workflow. I chose this over other solutions for the level of artistic control and security. Comfy UI allows me to really dial in all the parameters and control exactly where I want things in an image. It's also helped me learn more about what's happening under the hood. I use Koya for training, but if you're just getting started, I might recommend NMKD, which has a simplified training interface that's quite good out of the box. In the interest of time and non-disclosure, I'm not going to get too much into training today. That's probably a full day course just by itself. For 3D, I currently use Blender. Any DCC like Maya or Houdini or C4D or Unreal Engine, those all work. I chose Blender for now because it's good, it's scriptable, and it's free. Upscaling, also a very, very important part of the process. I have used Topaz extensively in the past. I recently switched over to Magnific, and I'll share some output from that in a little bit. I use a little bit of Lightroom and Photoshop for cleanup, color grading, and post, and a little bit of Python, sometimes a little bit of processing for automation. I also use Midjourney. I like it. V6, in my opinion, has probably the best commercially available model with the best aesthetics. Niji also released version 6 yesterday. That's definitely worth checking out. I struggle with the Midjourney interface in Discord and the web, and the current feature set, in my opinion, is limited. I think it works well for brainstorming. I think it works well for synthetic data generation. But for anything that's more production-oriented in the real world, it doesn't really offer the level of artistic control that I need. And I feel like there's privacy issues there. I also really want to call out Focus with 3 O's. It's great. In fact, if you're coming over from Midjourney, but you need more control or you need a local installation, I think Focus is probably the best way to transition your way of thinking and working over to Stable Diffusion. It also has best-in-class in-painting if you need to do a lot of that. So I encourage you to look it up, give it a shot. You can download that from GitHub. I think it installs in 1 click. Quickly, this is what Comfy UI looks like for those of you who aren't familiar with it. It's a node-based interface that runs in browser. If you have a workstation and a GPU, you can download Comfy UI from GitHub, get started in minutes. If you don't, you can access it through a hosted cloud provider. I recommend runpod.io. They have a Comfy UI template built right into their deployment. It doesn't cost very much at all to get up and running. I use runpod all the time for overflow, running overnight batch jobs. There are plenty of tutorials on YouTube available to you to get set up with Comfy and locally or on the cloud. One note, if you are doing any commercial work on cloud, you might need data clearance from your client, so just be very conscious about that. You don't want to violate any company policies. You are also going to want to install the Comfy UI Manager. You can find that on GitHub as well. I've got the link down here, but you can also just Google it. The manager allows you to install custom nodes and models in just a few clicks. Once you're up and running, you can plug in a model. I mostly use SDXL Base and Refiner. For personal stuff, I found Realistic Vision and RealViz Excel are quite well done. Juggernaut, Reality's Edge are both useful to me. I do train my own LoRa's and models, but again, due to NDA and time, I'm not going to get into that today. Another note, you'll need to reserve some drive space for this, and models can take some time to download, so just plan that in advance. Another really couple of important notes about downloading models. It is the Wild West out there right now, especially if you're working with characters. Downloaded models often over-index towards not safe for work content. They produce blatant intellectual property violations. Commercial rights are not clearly spelled out. So if you're in a corporate setting, you don't want to violate your company policies. You want to check in with them on that. In fact, what I've found is that a lot of companies still don't even have generative AI policies. So you should be very well aware of all of this and just above board with anyone that you're working with in a freelance capacity. Anytime that I engage with consulting, I have my own generative AI disclosure that spells this all out, and I tend to stay very vanilla with production, and I encourage clients towards training custom models. Once you have a checkpoint model, this is the minimal 6-node setup for SDXL. Checkpoint, positive and negative prompts, empty latent, 1 K-sampler and a decoder. If we zoom in on the K-sampler, this is the node where the image is generated. This is where the magic happens. These are the scheduler settings that I start with most of the time. I typically use a high step count and a low CFG, but your mileage may vary, especially with the rise of turbo models and LCM. It's really important to plan the resolution of your images. SDXL was trained at 1024, so if there's recommended divisions that you should follow to achieve the various aspect ratios, and there's even a custom helper node out there, I think, that I don't use, but you can use it, puts the optimal resolutions in a dropdown for different aspect ratios, just to make it a little bit more idiot-proof. But now, if you try to go to a non-standard resolution on an empty latent, you're gonna have a bad day. You're gonna get stuff that looks like this. And this is common because everybody wants high-resolution images, but they don't fully understand the concept or the importance of an upscaler. I kind of like these. I personally find them pretty interesting. I generated these images deliberately to try and enhance these flaws. But a lot of people that are working with Stable Diffusion for the first time, they don't intend for a head sticking out of another head, an 8-wheeled Porsche 911. There are many solutions to this problem. They all involve correct upscaling. One technique that you can use is to pass your image through a second K-sampler with a latent upscale node. This technique is also known as the high-res fix. In this case, I'm running the first base image through the latent upscale node to effectively double the resolution. In the second K-sampler, the scheduler is now set to exponential. The start step is set to 15, meaning that the first 15 steps of the generation are coming directly from that first low-res image, and the remaining 45 steps are acting as a finishing pass. So what you may have picked up on here is that the start at step in the second K-sampler makes it a guided image-to-image operation. So in Comfy, image-to-image and text-to-image are using the same process. The only difference is that text-to-image uses an empty latent that starts at step 0. This is one way to upscale, but it's not the only way, and we'll come back to this. But it's important to really think about this concept of multiple K-samplers that are top of mind, because multi-pass generation is a really important concept with a lot of different applications to refine your images and achieve higher quality. So just park that idea for now, let it marinate. We'll come back. Moving over to text prompting, if you're not familiar with the Stable Diffusion XL built-in styles, I highly recommend familiarizing yourself with them. This is the SDXL prompt styler node, which allows you to use them. What it does is it actually expands your prompt. So for example, in my initial base prompts over on the left, they're just a few words, but after it's been styled with SAI photographic built in, it adds all these extra words to create longer, more descriptive prompts. We've seen that in a few products today as well. It's the same concept. There are hundreds of built-in styles that you can use. You can access them from the drop-down in the prompt styler node. You can also get under the hood and write your own styles. I've done that a couple of times. This is what it looks like when it's wired up in Comfy. Raw text nodes go into the styler. Style is chosen by drop-down. Augmented text nodes come out and get fed into the text encoder. This is some of the output from my favorite styles that I use on a regular basis. One thing that I should point out, you can integrate an SDXL styler node into any model, even the SD 1.5 architecture. Again, all it's really doing here is expanding your prompts to make it more descriptive. One thing to be aware of is that this technique is highly optimized for the SDXL base model in particular. I've found that a lot of other models don't fully respect the styles. So if you take a more photographic checkpoint like Photon, for example, but you're trying to tease out an impressionistic painting from it, there are just too many contradicting variables there, and you will get an image, but you're unlikely to be satisfied with the results. So just be cautious of that. Your mileage may vary if you try to get too creative. One trick that you can do with 2 K-samplers using prompt styles is a simple style transfer or style blender, style tuner, whatever you want to call it. Run a first pass with one style, finish with another. I do this on almost every single image that I produce. Here, 2 checkpoints. In this case, SDXL base on the top, refiner on the bottom, fixed seeds, decrementing the start steps in the second K-sampler. And so here, what we're doing is we're traveling from art style impressionist to SAI photographic to produce a gradient between impressionism and photorealism. And so maybe you can use this technique to help dial in and really find that sweet spot for the project that you're working on. You'll notice here that even though we're on a fixed seed, once the prompt gets expanded, the words are different in both of the prompts. So what happens is we end up style transferring between two similar but different images with different structure. If you need to do this operation with two more structurally similar images, you can use a control net. There are many different types of control net models. In this case here, I'm using the Canny Control LoRa. This is an image Canny filter node that acts as a preprocessor to produce an outline of the original image that then we can use as output for the control net. And then you apply that to the conditioning to help guide the diffusion. So here on the top row, I have control net turned off. You saw what we saw before. The house starts to drift towards a new image the closer that we get to the photographic style. But on the bottom row, we have control net turned on. So now it adheres to the structure of the original image, and we can push the stylization much further if we want. That image in particular is pretty interesting to me. It has this hyper-real quality to it that's not easily achievable through typical prompting. Probably only through the use of control net and traveling through style transfers can you get something like that. I'm a big fan of control net. I think it's really one of the secret sauces that elevates Stable Diffusion towards something that looks more like a production-grade artistic tool set. There are many different control net models that are available. There's OpenPose, for example, which is meant for posing characters. Some of the results that I see are very, very good with it. There's also this one, which is called QR Code Monster, which is sometimes referred to as diffusion illusion. This is the same model that's used to create all those AI spirals that came out a few months ago. It's actually a very powerful and effective model for controlling the tone of your image. I use it all over the place to create stronger shape language. I should note this particular image was generated in SD 1.5 using the Realistic Vision checkpoint. I will say today that the SD 1.5 version of QR Code Monster, in my experience, tends to respond a lot better than the SDXL version of it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Here's another demo of a control net. I'm going to be using the depth control LoRa in SDXL. This is a viewport image directly out of Blender. It's a very simple scene. There's only two objects here, a flat plane that represents the ground, and I downloaded a Porsche 911 model by Carol Miklas. Very, very good model. It's important to note there's no need for UV unwrap. There's no complex materials here. There's no shader graph. There's no lighting setup, no fog, no render settings. It's just simple meshes. The scene took me less than 5 minutes to set up. I depth render that out of Blender, plug that into the control net depth LoRa in SDXL, and guided by a simple prompt styled by Sci Cinematic, we get the expected results, reproducible, and you can just see, you can just keep this going over and over and over again. Oops, went too far. So with ControlNet, you can get images that are consistently styled with fine control over the composition and minimal guidance. If your client doesn't like the position of the car, wants more negative space for a masthead, make it pop, color changes, it's all achievable with this method. A few things to note. The models for ControlNet and SDXL and SD 1.5 are different models. So if you're passing images back and forth between different architectures, with ControlNet, you're going to need multiple models. You're going to need to condition separate prompts for each pass. Your workflows can just start to get pretty big and unwieldy. Manageable, just something to keep in mind. Also, if you're using the SDXL refiner model, some of the ControlNet models are incompatible with that, so that's something to keep in mind too. If you are using the refiner model, I recommend placing it near the end of your workflow, just to refine those last 10 or 15% before upscaling. Here's another important technique. This is called regional prompting. It's also known as conditioning masks. If you ever wanted multiple prompts and the ability to choose exactly where they appear in a single image, you can create masks and condition them for that. So for example, here we have one prompt for the general environment assigned to the black upper region as our base, and a second prompt for lavender fields that's assigned to the lower white region. So we set the mask, and we combine them using a conditioning combine node. And here are the results of that operation. So if you want to do this yourself, the nodes that you should look up are conditioning set mask, conditioning combine. There is also a conditioning concatenate node. It maths differently, can produce slightly different results. Now there's also a strength variable on the conditioning set mask node. That means you can dial this in as much as you want on the additional prompt that you want combined in. So here on the left is the original prompt with strength set to 0 on the lavender field, and the lavender field is slowly added in on a fixed seed with a strength slider. And you can see every step of the way, it perfectly resolves the transition. Every one of these images is coherent. So again, another killer technique you can use to have greater control over your images is conditioning masks. This is what a minimal network for that looks like. 2 prompts, 2 prompt stylers, 2 text encoders. At the bottom, we're loading in the mask, plugging that into the conditioning set mask node, which is then combined with the conditioning from the first prompt, fed into the K-sampler. That's it. Now, another really important tool at the moment is called an IP adapter. It's a little similar to an image prompt, but it's far stronger, and it's a lot more flexible. What this does is it uses vision to look at an input image, break it down into tokens, and then add that information into your model. You can think of it like a one-shot LoRa, but it doesn't need training. So for example, let's say I have this image of an orange 911. I want to inject the tokenization of that image into my prompt. I can use an IP adapter. This is the kind of result that you can expect when I run that prediction. Of course, strength. It's also on a slider. So you can dial it up and down, fine-tune the amount of influence from the images in your IP adapter. Here you can see around 0.6 actually starts to lose track of the car on this particular seed. You can dial it past 1.0. You can overcrank it, but it starts to deep fry the image, so you want to be careful with that. You're going to have to play around with the strength and the noise to get exactly the amount of influence that you need. By default, the IP adapter and the prompt in Comfy, they both cover the entire image. But you can use attention masking to apply the IP adapter to any region of the image. So for example, if we just wanted the information and tokens in the car image to be located into a smaller area in the bottom center, we can mask that in and you can cue the prompt. And we get a more concentrated result as expected. You can stack multiple IP adapters on top of each other, give them their own weights and their own masks. So here we have the prompt again as a base that fills the entire image in black. We inject 911 into the red channel, the image from that. We introduce a new image that's got some jungle in it, and we plug that into the green channel. We want to see what that looks like. And here are the results, probably what you'd expect. Of course, you can get more variations on that motif. Cherry pick the ones that work best for you. You can add ControlNet to get the elements placed more precisely where you want them. Really, the only limit here is your imagination. IP adapters, very powerful for prompting with images, especially in combination with attention masking. Earlier, I'd mentioned how critical upscaling is. I want to come back to this and cover a bit of post-processing before I close out for the night. Earlier, I shared this high-res fix workflow, but there are a couple of other techniques that are maybe a little bit more state-of-the-art. The first one worth mentioning is the Ultimate SD Upscale node. This takes an image and creatively upscales it while it's guided by your prompt. It actually breaks the image down into smaller tiles, upscales each of those tiles individually, reconnects them, and blends the seams. Multiple options for how you want that operation to perform. It's doing a lot. It can take quite a long time to generate locally. I have a 4090. It still takes forever. There are a lot of parameters that need to be dialed in here, so it can be a real challenge. If you want to tackle this workflow, you have to allocate quite a bit of time to just dial it in and get it just right. This isn't easy stuff. So this is our original low resolution, and there's companies out there that are building upscalers that master that technique. Anyway, this is our low resolution image. This is it with a very basic 2x upscale, very minimal tweaking to the base parameters. You know, at first glance, it looks a little crisper, it looks a little bit cleaner. But if we zoom in and we start to look at the close-up, that's our original image, and then we compare it to our upscale, you can see it's like, yeah, sure, it's added some detail, it's cleaned up a few of the lines. It's almost like brought more attention to some of the telltale, it just looks AI-y. And to the trained eye, it looks worse. Now, I admit I didn't dial in all the settings here. I didn't add a stack of detail LoRa's. I didn't use ControlNet. This is just out-of-the-box demonstration for someone that may be new to this node and some of the things that you may be going through as you practice that node. But again, because there are so many parameters here, it's going to take a very long time to get right. Probably days. So if you don't have time for all that, but you do have a little bit of money kicking around, and your company is fine with you uploading images to a cloud service, there is another option that I recommend for upscaling. That's Magnific.ai. This is a cloud service that runs in browser. It's using a similar technique, but it's been highly optimized. I think it just does a great job. That FreePic, they look pretty good. I'm going to check that out at the end as well. Here's the original low-res image again. Here it is upscaled by Magnific. Again, the original in close-up. Magnific. Not perfect, still some visible flaws, but it's a lot cleaner. I've been impressed with Magnific. I'm also seeing a lot of similar upscale models that are now coming out, or companies that are building these. I'm trying to pay close attention to all of them because I know how difficult of a problem this is to solve. Trying to develop my own upscaling workflow as well so that I've got something that's for secure local use. But the last thing that I'm going to cover today very quickly is post-production. Every image that I produce, it typically enters Lightroom near the end of my pipeline. One of the things that you might be noticing is that most AI images out there are really juiced when it comes to color, comes to saturation, brightness. They're just really intense. And to my eye, it's one of the tells that it's an AI image or that it's synthetic media. So often I just find I make subtle tweaks like reducing contrast, adding vignettes. I like a little film grain. I like a little flaws in there, usually just like a 2 or a 3% tweak to the image. I don't want to overdo it, make it look over-processed or deep fried. If I see any obvious flaws, I'll clean them up. I don't know if you caught that. There's just some lights I didn't like in there. So again, very tiny, 2 or 3% of the image. I don't want to overwork it. I just want to take care of any distractions, things that I don't like. For bigger in-painting jobs, I recommend Focus. But for minor touch-up, generative fill in Photoshop is a great in-painting workflow right now. And when I'm happy with the edits, I pull the trigger and I call it done. A couple more examples. Here is before upscale and post. There it is after upscale and post. Another couple images that are before upscale and post. Subtle. Just adding some detail. That's about it. That is most of what I wanted to share with you today. I didn't go super deep into the 3D stuff today, but I want to emphasize that I am a believer in this idea of a hybrid CG AI workflow. I figure that's a real opportunity space right now. I believe the decline of raster graphics has begun, and we should be paying attention to that. I'm a proponent of Comfy UI. It's modular. You can mix and match all the different techniques that I shared today. You can dial it in exactly to your needs. Runs locally if you have the right hardware. Also just want to point out, upscaling is not an easy problem to solve. I recommend using tools that are available to do that. Magnific, in my opinion, appears to be the best that's currently on the market. Here are some other things that I'm keeping my eye on this year. Just want to thank you for taking the time with me. If you're looking for consulting, R&D, if you have any projects that need this type of work, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And be on the lookout for more announcements later this year. I hope that you got some value from this. I can't wait to see what you come up with by applying some of these techniques on your own. And with that, I'm out.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I want to thank all of you for being here, sticking out the whole day. Super impressive. We appreciate you being here for all the content. I want to thank our platinum sponsors, Lightning AI, Rizzle, Convex, and AI Alliance. AI Alliance is sponsoring our after party tomorrow night. That's at 8 o'clock, so be there. One other announcement is tomorrow is Developer Day, and we are opening up GA passes for the next 2 hours for you guys. So if you want to jump in and register for Developer Day, GA passes are available for free for the next few hours. So please register if you're available tomorrow. We've got one more day full of content. So thank you so much. Daryl and Selma will be here for a few more minutes if you want to follow up for questions. And with that, we need to shut down the venue in the next 12 minutes to get it prepared for tomorrow. So thank you so much once again.